Peace and light that old guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know I'm doing a video. Here I am relaxing on my veranda in Sydney. We've been away, Joe and I, for a little while now. Thank you for all the messages and the phone calls and text and everything else. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to get back to you all. It's impossible. But just letting you all know, thank you. Yes, we've been under the pump. And look, a lot of people, pardon me, are in far worse situations than we are. I mean, that's true. A lot of people are. We're not dead. You know, we're just under we got a lot of balls in the air, and it's at this age, it's incredibly stressful. And the worst part is this isn't of our own making. Just bureaucratic bumbling has put us in a really very tenuous situation. And anyway, I don't want to go into it. It's it'll sort itself out. In the meantime, we just had to get away, and thanks to Cameron and to Kim for having us up at their farm, and which, by the way, yes, they have internet in their house, but basically I'm with Telstra. You can't get any reception up there. It's pretty cool. And we went chasing this wild boar up there. Thing's massive, but we found his hoof prints and some poo and a few things, but we weren't able to remove him from the planet because they are on top of the invasive species list. Pigs are number one. They are just so destructive to our flora and to our fauna, and they're horrendous, and they're in plague proportions. Anyway, all man science, let's bring in what do we bring in? Well, the English brought in what? Pigs, they brought in rabbits, they brought in hares, brought in foxes, they brought in deer, dear God, that's what they brought in. Camels, donkeys, and these things are destroying our native wildlife and the flora, which has no protection, no way of protecting themselves against these invasive species. And the government's done nothing, the Greens haven't helped, and here we are in a really shitty situation. Anyway, I've digressed. So we've been having a bit of, I would say R&R, but really I just, like a lot of people, feeling under the pump, feeling a tremendous amount of pressure and just, struggling to find a way forward in a lot of areas. So getting away has been a bit of a blessing for us. And my God, it's cold up there, though. I can tell you, there's cold and then there's bone chilling. You know what I mean? You can be in the snow and be cold, and but when that wind hits you, oh my God, give me the Maldives any day as far as I'm concerned. It's not my cup of tea. And that big hello to Brett and Deb down at Mount Buller with their sled dogs. Good on you. Happy days. Australian Sled Dog Tours. Look them up and take your family down there, and you probably love going on the snow with the sled dogs. Great fun and wonderful people. But I won't be doing it. Just saying. Sorry, Brett. That's not me, man. Anyway, be that as it may. Anyway, enough of the mirth. So, because you get to think about a lot of things, and as you know, within the truther community, we're finding stuff out all the time, and every time we find something out, it's labelled as conspiracy or misinformation, disinformation. And 8 months ago, when Antonio Guterres, who's the Secretary General of the United Nations, he came forward and said he'd met with Klaus Schwab and they'd agreed to bring Agenda 30 forward. And the transformation in that 8 months has been horrendous. So fast, everything is coming at us from every single direction. They've abandoned feminism entirely. For the last 50 years, there's been a push for feminism and raising the glass ceiling and doing this and that. Now it matters not. A man can be a woman, and you can't say he's not. And this legislation is being passed right around the world. We have legislation about to be enacted here in Australia. Within 2 weeks, by the way, you probably find that most of us won't be on social media. Within 2 weeks. That's how bad this is going to be, because the Labor Party has just proposing legislation to be introduced into Parliament for discussion in 2 weeks, and that is under the committee. I think it's the CMA, can't remember who. But they've got a panel of these people these experts who are going to decide what is information and what is misinformation, what's truth and what's not truth, what you can and can't discuss. and what may or may not cause harm to the Australian people. That includes talking about religion, politics, sex, whether it be anything to do with climate change. But the basic structure of this, as we know, Klaus Schwab has put the pressure on the governments around the world. We're signatories to the WEF, the World Economic Forum. When Albanese got into Parliament here as the Prime Minister of Australia, he had a visit from Bill Gates, and then following up from that was a visit from President Obama, both of whom are pushing this new agenda. And they've come over to get him to toe the line, and he has pushed it hard. Introducing the voice is one of the main key components of this change within Australia. Get it away from being any kind of association or affiliation with England. Once it become a republic, then the UN can step in. They've already intimated that's the case, that they want to do that under their World Pandemic bloody treaties. So we know that's going to happen. Okay, we know where that's going with all that. So this new legislation will ban you from speaking in a negative way against the voice. You won't be able to voice, and that, by the way, that's not just you or me. This is Indigenous people as well. Anybody who speaks against the voice will be silenced. They will not be, it'll be misinformation. It'll be disinformation. They will censor this like crazy because the government's just pushed in another $30 million to promote the voice because they need to get it through. Until they get it through and get the Indigenous people of Australia to get them put into our constitution, once they're in there, then they have them under their control, then the UN can step in. We know how this works. There's no point thinking this is conspiracy theory. This is factual and fact. This is how it's going to go. You're just watching it unveil, reveal itself right before your eyes, and this is how it's going to end up. You know, so within 2 weeks, once this bill passes, and they're going to push hard to get this through, but let's say they get it through. If this bill goes through in 2 weeks' time, most of us won't be on social media anymore. And that includes me, YouTube, anything. You won't be, because anything you put down there will be open to massive, massive fines if they declare it as misinformation or disinformation. You can be fined, and the people who allow that on their platforms, such as Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, they too will face major fines. But we know they won't. That's just been put in there, right, to cover their asses when they withdraw and censor that information. They'll say, well, we had to do it because if we didn't, the Australian government's legislation would have seen us cop massive fines. They don't even pay tax. It's just a joke. But this is all being set up right before our eyes. You know, this is how it's going. So when you think about all these things put together, we've had the submarine that was, the submarine that wasn't, the bloody submarine. Everybody was focused on that and freaking out and crying, shedding tears of blood, and the bloody thing. Well, we know it exploded because it exploded on the Sunday, and the US Navy knew all about it because they had the explosion on the bloody sonar. But they never said anything. Oh, no. They just let it all go, and the theatre played out for another 3 days. There's tapping. We can hear tapping. There was no tapping. Might have been a bloody, parrotfish eating coral. There was nothing. It no longer existed. Whether there were bodies in there or not, that's open to speculation. I haven't got a clue. I can't imagine billionaires just... the whole thing. Anyway, the PS3 PlayStation controller was filmed on the bottom of the ocean, and it survived, that massive depth. Oh, yeah. But no bodies floated out, no bits of bodies. There was nothing else came out of it. But anyway, that was interesting. Nothing else came out of that hole. They didn't see anything float on top of the water. Anyway, I won't get into it. But the point being, during that period of time, there was enormous amounts of things passed all around the world, including JP Morgan Bank in America, one of the world's biggest banks, paying out Jeffrey Epstein's victim list, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. They've agreed to pay them out, and that was done silently and secretly, so it was no longer in the press. We had all the state premiers here in Australia had a clandestine meeting to agree to continue with the push towards the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, which, by the way, is trialling throughout Australia and will be, I think the trials are up in September. So they had a secret clandestine meeting. Nobody even knew about it, no different than Obama's meeting with Albanese. He said it was in strict confidence, so he's not revealing the minutes of that meeting. When he had a meeting with Bill Gates, one of the first people to come and see him internationally was a software developer who's also developing the mRNA vaccines for cattle and livestock. This is going at a frightening pace. It really has. When they said they were going to bring Agenda 30 forward, they meant it. They have trillions of dollars at their disposal, and they intend to bring this about. This isn't a joke. This isn't some bloody conspiracy theory. It's not some bullshit. This is how it's working out, and they are pushing hard to bring this through. We're heading for an economic collapse, and New Zealand's gone into recession. America's just holding itself right where it is. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, they've all ditched the petrodollar. So I think America lost $30 billion in the first month when those countries refused to use the petrodollar, and they're trading in the yuan. So that went out the bloody window, and America's bust. It is broken ass bust. It's just when they want to pull the pin on this thing and say, right, now's the time when everything's in place and they're all ready. We've got this push for non-binary, no genders. It's just mental. It's mental. Poor old feminists. Wow. You thought you were fighting a good fight for 100 years, and look what happened. You were never in the hunt. Men were always going to be women. We're always going to dominate just by saying so. The 4 top sports people in the world are men, just as women, with dicks. That's quite amazing, really, when you think about it. Not funny. But the whole point is, this is going at a very, very fast pace. They've sped this up immensely. And I can feel it, in me. I feel it in me. I swear I can feel it, and it's not anxiety, but it's an urgency. And so I probably won't be around in a couple of weeks' time. Most of you won't be, because you're going to be risking enormous fines if this legislation goes through. Interesting part about that, which you want to see, is just how many independents and who they are, and who in the Liberal Party support this bill. You need to watch this. You need to keep an eye on who the hell supports this, and that's when you're going to know for sure. 2 wings, 1 bird, same bird. Never any different. Never any different. It was an illusion all along. There's no such things as different parties and elections. Our grandparents were all sold a dummy. They were set up to give you an illusion that you were having some kind of input into our society and change within our society. It was utter bullshit. Always has been. It's just theatre. Peace and light, that old guy Australia. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification button, and we'll catch you soon.